Okay, welcome to the 2023 edition of the Volunteer Job Fair hosted by the Sierra Club of Pennsylvania. We'll get started in just a minute. This program is being recorded so we can share with folks that couldn't be here tonight. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat now or anytime during the program today. Please keep your microphone muted during the presentation. There will be plenty of time for Q&A in a few minutes.
Hi, everyone. Now, I'm sure we've all been on Zoom for the past couple of years, but just a couple of setup pieces. As a reminder, closed captions are available if you would like to turn those on. Please keep yourself on mute when you're not speaking. Turn on your video if you're comfortable, but keep in mind that we are recording. So if you're not comfortable being recorded on video, then feel free to stay off camera. To rename yourself, open the participants list, hover over the three dots that you see there, and then you're going to see the rename option. If you would like to introduce yourself, ask questions, we ask that you do that in the chat. There will be question periods during our break rooms and at the end of the presentation as well, where you will be able to come off mute and ask questions if need be. Otherwise, use the chat in the meantime. And then you can also raise your hand if you want to speak. That is also at the bottom of the participants list. And we're going to go over some community agreements because it's important to us that everyone here is able to participate fully in our session tonight. So we are asking that you adhere to the following norms and expectations. First, engage with kindness, of course. Racism, misogyny, xenophobia, other forms of discrimination will not be tolerated. Speak from your own experience. If you find yourself speaking a lot, be sure to leave space for others. As we've said, stay on mute while speakers are presenting and ask questions in the chat or wait until the Q&A period. You can use the double plus sign in the chat to indicate if something really resonates with you that you want to applaud. And if you're having technical problems, also ask for help in the chat. We have a number of staff members here tonight to provide support for you as we move through the presentation. Our speakers are going to try not to use jargon, acronyms, industry language, but do ask us to clarify if something doesn't make sense. We do have a very tight schedule tonight, so it's possible that if a topic is lingering, we may ask that you continue that conversation outside of the event. We would love to connect with you, to talk with you after the event is over about anything that requires more follow-up. We might not have all the answers to every question tonight, right? There's a lot of us here, but questions happen. So if we do need to follow up with you, we will get your information and make sure we get those answers to you. And also, if you have a question that's unrelated to volunteering with the Sierra Club, an environmental issue that you wanted to highlight, please feel free to email that to us. Feel free to reach out after this. We are really focusing tonight on volunteer opportunities.
Thanks, Melissa. So here's what we will be covering today. After some introductions, we'll be quickly going over some Sierra Club orientation, just so everybody has a view of the big picture of Sierra Club, our mission, and unique structure. Then we'll plan to break into smaller groups to go over the specific volunteer opportunities in all parts of the Pennsylvania Sierra Club. Each of the breakout rooms will be covering the same material. We just wanted to get more volunteers and staff involved and create some smaller groups to have discussions based on your areas of interest. Then we'll get back together to review some upcoming events, share a volunteer interest survey, and then hang out for a while longer to make sure your questions are answered. Our primary speakers today will be four of our Pennsylvania chapter leaders. Tom Schuster is the Pennsylvania chapter director. Tom is a 10-year veteran of the Sierra Club and recently has been promoted to our chapter director. Tom lives in Johnstown. Chris Shepard is currently serving as the chair of the Pennsylvania chapter, a volunteer position. Chris lives in Pittsburgh. Melissa Farr, who you already heard from, is a recent addition to the chapter staff, joining us last June as a distributed organizer. Melissa lives in Lancaster. And Jim Wiley, me, I'm currently serving as the chapter conservation co-chair, again, a volunteer position, and I live in Westchester. There will be several other volunteers and staff participating in the breakout rooms. We'll introduce them in a few minutes. So we have over 100 people registered for today's volunteer job fair. If we can get 100 new active volunteers across Pennsylvania, that would be fantastic. We will do our best to find the best fit between your interests and the many roles that volunteers take in the Sierra Club. We have around 30,000 members and more than 100,000 supporters across the state in all counties. Based on the zip codes that you entered on the registration page for this event, here are the counties in green that you all are representing today. If you haven't already introduced yourself in the chat, you're invited to do that now, as Melissa talked about. Just your name and town or county you live in. If you don't see your county in green on this map, please let us know in the chat. So now I'm going to turn it over to Tom Schuster for a little Sierra Club orientation.
All right, thank you, Jim. Sierra Club is the oldest and largest grassroots environmental organization in the country. We just last year celebrated our 130th anniversary. I'll take just a second here to read and emphasize our mission statement, which is to explore, enjoy, and protect the planet, to practice and promote the responsible use of the Earth's ecosystem and resources, to educate and enlist humanity, to protect and restore the quality of the natural and human environment, and to use all lawful means to carry out these objectives. Next slide. Okay. So the Sierra Club has a volunteer board of directors that is elected by its members and that sets goals and policies that apply across the national organization. Some of our key goals are outlined here on this slide, which include an aggressive response to the climate crisis, an economy-wide decarbonization by 2050, tackling the extinction crisis by conserving habitats, correcting past and present injustices with a recognition that the same political and economic forces and mindset that lead to oppression and marginalization of people also allow for the exploitation and ruination of nature. Building an undeniable movement of diverse people and groups to achieve these goals, and encouraging people to get outside, get inspired by nature, and working to remove barriers that keep some folks from being able to do that easily. To further our goal of working for justice, we strive to ground all of our work and interactions in the Jemez principles for democratic organizing. A summary of the 6 principles is here, and Melissa is going to put in the chat a link to a one-page summary that explains more about what each principle means and how to practice it. And I say practice intentionally because we don't always get this right, but still we expect all of our staff and volunteers to work to understand and apply these principles when working on behalf of the organization. The Sierra Club recently also articulated a set of core values which build on the Jemez principles and apply not just to our public-facing work, but also to our internal dealings across the organization. Not only are we all working to hold ourselves to these values, but they also serve as a kind of compass when we are tackling new and complex issues and deciding how to prioritize all of the different issues that come up. So as a 130-year-old organization, we have a structure that has grown and evolved over time and is fairly complex. This diagram represents the basic structure. So our national leadership at the top of the chart consists of a volunteer board of directors and a team of executive staff. In fact, we recently just hired a new executive director, Ben Jemez, who will start with Sierra Club next week. Below that, we have 3 main units. The national campaigns and programs on your left include the Beyond Coal campaign, Clean Transportation for All campaign, Our Wild America, and other campaigns and programs, which drive specific priorities across the entire organization. Tonight, we have Kelsey Krebs with us, who is a staff person who works for the Beyond Dirty Fuels campaign. And so she is based in Pittsburgh, focuses on reining in the oil and gas industry in Pennsylvania, and works for that national campaign. In the middle, we have the chapters. They mostly cover individual states, except for California, which has a whole bunch of chapters. We'll expand on the chapter structure a little bit in the next few slides. But below the chapters, we have groups, which are subdivisions of the chapters. We'll talk a little bit about ICO, or Inspiring Connections Outdoors, when in the breakout rooms when we talk about outings. Most of the folks who are on the call tonight, as well as most of the volunteer opportunities at Sierra Club, are at the chapter or group level. We also have the national capacities on the right, some of which are operational, and some, like communications, organizing, and digital strategies, support the campaigns, the programs, and the chapters. I believe we have Randy Francisco tonight, who is working for the National Organizing Department based in Pittsburgh. He spends a lot of time engaging constituents to influence federal policy, working for that national capacity. Next slide. So Pennsylvania is one of the larger chapters actually in Sierra Club in terms of our budget and the number of staff that we have. And that's partly because of our population. We're a relatively populous state, as well as our rather dubious distinction of being one of the epicenters of fossil fuel extraction for a very long time. So there's a lot of work to do here. In addition to performing some critical administrative functions that make all of our work possible, our chapter staff duties range from directing lobbying of elected officials to educating and organizing the public so that they can work on the protect part of our mission, to getting people outside to deepen their appreciation of nature and meet like-minded people. And so you'll have a chance to meet some of these folks in the breakout rooms tonight, depending on which room you're in. But the chapter is a lot more than our staff. As a true grassroots organization, many of the activities and events that we host, as well as the decisions that we make, rely on volunteer leaders. So to kick off that discussion, I'm going to turn it over to one of those leaders, Chris Shepard, who serves as chapter co-chair currently and also wears a number of other volunteer hats. So Chris, take it away.
Thank you, Tom. The all-volunteer executive committee is 6 elected at-large delegates by Sierra Club members and 9 group delegates appointed by their respective groups. The executive committee, or ExCom, organizes itself into chapter officers and other leadership roles called committees, committee chairs, and teams. Currently, our officers are myself and Don Miles serving as co-chairs, Lisa Anzalone as secretary, and Tracy Ash as treasurer. Tracy recently resigned. We'll be having an organizational meeting later in January to approve new leadership for 2023. Next slide, please. Here you can see a breakdown of the different groups which constitute the Pennsylvania chapter. Allegheny, Lake Erie, Moshannon, North Central, Lehigh Valley, Kittatinning, Lancaster, Governor Pinchot, and Southeastern. They are semi-autonomous entities within the PA chapter. They all have outings, conservation, education, and environmental justice chairs. They're all volunteer organizations, each with its elected executive committee. The group delegates to the chapter ExCom. They all have a bank account and a treasurer to fund projects, governance bylaws, and candidate endorsements. Next slide, please. A couple of years ago, Sierra Club started a club-wide review and listening program to look at ways to improve our organization. As Sierra Club President Ramon Cruz has said, the structural assessment is a powerful re-envisioning of Sierra Club's structure, centering our need to become an increasingly equitable and inclusive organization with the power needed to build a just and sustainable future for people in our planet. Implementation of structural changes is expected to roll out in the next couple of years. In the PA chapter, we will see some ongoing dialogue with volunteer leaders about how we can all work together as efficiently and inclusively as possible and make volunteering with the Sierra Club an enjoyable experience with a minimum of bureaucracy and a maximum of save the planet time.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And with that, we are going to break into rooms with the magic of Zoom.
I want to set the stage for what we'll be talking about in our breakout room today. So we should have, hopefully 30 minutes will be plenty of time. If you have clarifying questions, you can raise your hand during the presentation. Otherwise, we can wait until the Q&A after the slides, and we'll have additional time when we rejoin the main room. So in Pennsylvania, you can think of Sierra Club programs as being overlapping across the state. So, first we have national campaigns. So examples of these include the Beyond Coal campaign, which advocates for shutting down coal-burning power plants, fossil-free finance, which encourages our major financial institutions to take responsibility for the climate impact of the companies that they invest in and change their investment decisions. The Beyond Dirty Fuels campaign holds the gas and oil extraction industries accountable for the pollution and the carbon emissions that they cause. We won't say too much more about the national programs today. We're going to focus on chapter opportunities, but just wanted you to be aware of the work that's going on there. And they will often ask our volunteers and supporters for help in the form of contacting elected officials and taking other actions periodically. So we have several slides about initiatives that are led by Pennsylvania chapter staff, like outings and lobbying teams, grassroots organizing, and the Here for CJ coalition, which we'll explain what that means. These are topics that our leaders feel are important enough to hire staff to specifically focus on certain problems or opportunities. And then we have a number of volunteer-led initiatives, and our leaders will share some information about opportunities with a statewide focus, including leadership roles in conservation teams. And finally, you'll hear about our local volunteer opportunities. So these are group level initiatives like considering candidates for Sierra Club endorsement, organizing events and teams around local environmental and social justice issues, and volunteer leader roles with the group executive committees.
All right, so I'm going to start with our chapter staff. You can see all of our delightful pictures there. So we work throughout the state in support of state and national campaigns, and we collaborate with our volunteer leaders and local groups. We also regularly engage with lawmakers, government agencies, allied organizations. We really do a really diverse range of roles. If you want to learn more about that, check us out on the website. We've all got cute little bios there. And then here are the opportunities that you can participate in with our chapter staff.
One area of work is the outings program. It's often the first interaction that people have with the organization. It can be used to build our base for advocacy. It can be used for fundraising and just building community, in addition to connecting people with our outdoor spaces. Our chapter and group level, on the chapter and group level, we primarily work with the local outings program and Inspiring Connections Outdoors to provide free outings that are open to everyone. Local outings leaders focus on outdoor experiences for an array of people, and they offer experiences like family outings, hikes, biking trips, water-based outings, camping opportunities, and service projects. All local leaders go through a certification process, and that allows them to be covered by the Sierra Club insurance policies. Inspiring Connections Outdoors focuses on youth-related outings and often partners with youth or school groups. There's additional training and background checks involved when you're working with children. So the process is similar, though, to becoming a local outings leader. Currently, there are ICO groups in Harrisburg and Philadelphia. And national outings are used as a fundraising tool for the National Sierra Club. They're generally much larger in scale. There's international trips, as well as week-long backcountry trips to places all over. Military Outdoors works to connect veterans to their green spaces and build community in the outdoors. On February 1st, we're holding an information session to go over the requirements to become a leader and answer any questions that folks may have about the process. All right, Outdoors for All campaign in Philadelphia, which is led by Rebecca Deegan, works to reduce barriers to outdoor access and close the nature equity gap in communities that historically have been excluded from safe, comprehensive outdoor recreation. In Philadelphia, we hold outings in parks and green spaces all throughout the city, and also seek opportunities to support long-term advocacy initiatives that foster accessibility to outdoor spaces in Philly. We work with local partner organizations, community leaders, and volunteers. Past outings include hikes, snowshoeing, youth trips, nature book clubs, park cleanups, and more. All outings prioritize accessibility measures that foster inclusivity in outdoor spaces. We work to reduce barriers such as transportation, cost, safety, language, and physical accessibility. We fight against the development and neglect of green spaces and are seeking passionate volunteers who want to support their communities by leading outdoor activities that promote experiences for everyone.
Looking next at our state legislative and lobbying team. So if you have never talked to a lawmaker, it can be really intimidating. So I want to lead off by saying that no experience is necessary to join our lobbying team. Our organizers are going to support you, work with you every step of the way. You'll be able to gain lobbying skills. So you're going to participate in regular trainings to develop and refine how you communicate with lawmakers. Then you're going to have the opportunity to research your own lawmakers, learn about their priorities and activities, whether they align with Sierra Club values. And then you can kind of choose your own adventure here, right? If you're only comfortable writing to legislators, we'll help you do that. If you're comfortable on the phone, right, we can help you make those phone calls. And then maybe you're actually willing to go talk to people in their office, go for that maximum impact. We will help you along the way, visit your legislator, share your story with them to advocate for Sierra Club positions. So you can really choose how involved you want to be with this program. This team is having their first training this upcoming Monday night. That's the 23rd. You will hear more about that again at the end of everything tonight. All right, moving on to the Grassroots Powerbuilding team. So this team operates statewide. In the past, it was primarily engaged with federal work, but it's expanding to state work this coming year. So this team is primarily focused on engaging elected officials. So that's comparable to the lobbying team. They work closely together, as well as growing the activist base in Pennsylvania. Their tactics include writing letters to the editor, doing that lobbying. They also complete phone banking, text banking, organizing and attending rallies, you name it. The issues that this team has worked on in the past include the Inflation Reduction Act, Build Back Better, the appointment of our latest Supreme Court Justice. In the state realm, they've worked on the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative and the Whole Home Repairs Act. And so, you know, there's really a space here if you want to work on federal, state, a little bit of both. The Grassroots Powerbuilding team is a great option for you.
Here for CJ, which stands for Housing Equity Repair and Electrification for Climate Justice, is a Philly-based program. It started meeting in early 2020, and our members were brought together by shared understanding that achieving housing justice in Philadelphia was essential to addressing multiple crises at the same time: public health, climate, and displacement and gentrification. Our coalition consists of community-based organizations, home repair and weatherization providers, legal advocates, environmental and climate justice leaders, housing rights advocates, building engineers, workforce development partners, and community development corporations. We've supported housing access and repair programs like Built to Last in Philly, the Whole Home Repair Act at the state level, and have been part of the ongoing effort to transition Philly Gas Works away from natural gas, and are fighting to prevent utility shutoffs and to keep utilities affordable, recognizing that cooling homes has become essential to human health on a warming planet. Our three primary areas of focus are healthy, affordable, and climate resilient housing for all Philadelphians. Second, affordable fossil-free energy utilities, and third, family and community sustaining jobs.
And then we're going to look at digital support. So the digital tools team meets monthly and provides digital assistance to Sierra Club's other volunteer teams and groups using the suite of data tools. So they help with composing and sending emails, website updates, posting events, creating alerts and petitions, drafting emails to endorse candidates. They help with social media, you name it. So if you're tech savvy or you're willing to learn tech, this might be a volunteer team for you to join. There's also a volunteer-led newsletter team that composes a monthly digital newsletter called the Sylvanian. You may have seen it in your email. That takes a deep look at the issues facing our Commonwealth and reports back about Sierra Club PA activities. That's driven by a team of volunteers. So if you like writing, editing, posting articles, if you want to get involved in that type of work, copy editing, photography, graphic design, marketing, communication, you may be interested in working on the newsletter.
Volunteer opportunities at the chapter level include leadership roles on the chapter ExCom, chapter committees, committee chairs, and team leaders. Broadly speaking, the chapter leaders are responsible for keeping the trains running on time. With staff support, we establish an annual budget and review finances of the chapter, support the needs of groups within Pennsylvania, set policy on topics that are unique in Pennsylvania, and generally react to current events in the political and environmental landscape of the state. Tom and his staff are able to react more quickly, but for general direction, the chapter ExCom is a decision-making body. In addition to the focused initiatives that you have heard about from Tom, we have 8 conservation teams that try to cover the broader landscape of environmental challenges and opportunities in Pennsylvania. More on these 8 teams in a minute. A few more words about the chapter ExCom officers and chair roles. All are volunteer opportunities. The chapter ExCom is comprised of 6 at-large delegates that are elected by Sierra Club members across the state for 2-year terms, 3 each year. If you are a Sierra Club member, you should have been invited to participate in this year's election in November and December. Plus 9 delegates representing each of the 9 groups in PA. Each group appoints a delegate and usually an alternate. These 15 board members are responsible for making all decisions for the PA chapter. Each of the ExCom members generally take a specific role besides being an ExCom member, either as an officer and major chair shown in the top box or other chapter level roles. These other roles can also be filled by non-ExCom members. Generally, when you see chair listed in the lower box, there is a committee or team associated with that function. So you may have many volunteer opportunities to fill these chapter level roles in supporting committees. I'll say we have some priority needs for treasurer, fundraising, and membership committees or chair. I've been serving as the chapter co-chair for the last year, and it's been a very rewarding experience. I've met a lot of great people and got to do a lot of great work, and it's been really a wonderful experience for me. So sustainability is the overriding principle that Sierra Club conservation teams embrace. With the 3 pillars of sustainability, people, planet, and power and profit, guiding our actions, always striving to find social equity, preserve our natural resources, and have a sustainable economy. Click. The elephant in the room is, of course, climate change. All right. And we need to educate about these broader contexts whenever we can, but the Pennsylvania chapter conservation teams are organized around the major issues within these circles. First is energy, both resisting the expansion of dirty energy infrastructure and advocating for more clean energy. Another team is focused on pollution, polluters, and PA regulations that will improve our air and water quality. The transportation team considers solutions for electrification and smart transit planning. The land preservation team fights to protect our forests and open spaces. The food and ag teams has hosted webinars on urban farming, sustainable hemp farming in PA, and this coming February, the food and ag team will be hosting a session on looking at PFAS contamination in roadside produce. And finally, we have a zero waste team that advocates for reducing what goes into our landfills and incinerators. Don't try to read too much into what circles overlap with other circles. As John Muir said, when you lift up a rock, you'll find that everything is connected to everything else. Teams have a combination of chapter and national staff and volunteer leaders. There are conservation grants available to teams as well as support from our legal team, which is made up of both staff and volunteers. Also, of course, the equity, political outings, and comms teams have overlapping and supportive roles to play within the conservation teams. The state is split into 10 geographic regions called groups. This is a Sierra Club specific term. A group has its own executive committee and bylaws. ExCom members are elected by Sierra Club members to 2-year terms, so about half of the ExCom is up for election each year. Some of you live in the Northeast area. This region is not organized as a group at this time, but there is a movement to reform an organized structure. We'll talk more about the volunteer roles that make up these local groups in the next few slides.
The group ExCom officers and committee chair organization at the group level largely mirrors what we just heard about the chapter, but at a smaller level. Usually not all the roles are filled, but there are opportunities to open for whatever talents and interests are available for each group. Some groups may be really good at holding fundraiser events, some focus on political engagements, some on environmental education. Some hold their executive meetings at pubs, but we all try to have fun while supporting our local volunteer interests. Candidate endorsement is a key responsibility and opportunity for local volunteers. The endorsement process starts with group volunteers reviewing questionnaire responses, holding interviews, and making recommendations for consideration by group and chapter executive committees. Each endorsed candidate can display the badge you see on the screen, on the website, and other promotional material. Local teams also support our endorsed candidates' campaigns by helping with literature distribution, phone banking, or fundraiser events. For many people, environmental and social justice issues are the core reason for supporting and volunteering with the Sierra Club. Local volunteers are encouraged to educate themselves and the community about polluters, climate emissions, waste reduction, and more, as well as advocate for clean energy and sustainable living. Volunteers can count on the Sierra Club chapter and national resources for well-researched policy statements, training materials, informational brochures, grassroots interest teams, legal advisors, communication support, and more. And we are encouraged to partner with like-minded organizations to help amplify our messaging. I want to emphasize that Sierra Club is a grassroots organization. So while we're likely to see invitations to contribute to national and state level issues like the Clean Air Power or RGGI, we won't often see action about local issues unless we take the lead. So don't be shy, grab your cardboard sign and let's make some noise.
So before we get into the more general Q&A section in the main room here, I just wanted to share with everybody some upcoming activities that you'll be aware of. I do want to stress that we're going to put all of these in a follow-up email. You don't have to scribble them down. And we'll have links to register for each of these as well. As you heard about, the chapter conservation teams have a number of webinars coming up in February and early March. The Zero Waste and Food and Ag teams are going to be hosting a PFAS and stuff that you wouldn't think of webinar. Republic Lands and Sarah are hosting a Get to Know Your State Forests focusing on Governor Pinchot's State Forest. The Clean Transportation team is hosting a knowledgeable speaker to update us on the Inflation Reduction Act and incentives for electric vehicles and EV chargers. The Clean Energy and Water Quality teams are hosting a wastewater treatment flagship program in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. In March, the Dirty Energy team, along with Kelsey, are going to, what are we calling it? The Methane Madness webinar, talk about fugitive methane emissions. We have a number of team meetings that you can join coming up. Contact Emily for the Here for CJ Coalition. Governor Pinchot group, the Harrisburg area has a group meeting on next Tuesday. And then I've got a list of all the conservation teams listed there. What else? The Grassroots Powerbuilding meeting, a Lancaster group meeting, trainings coming up, Volunteer Lobby Day. I think you heard somebody promote that's coming up. That's a chapter initiative, outings information session, a hiking with toddlers in Philadelphia, film screening, protecting our forests from ATVs panel discussion, and finally, Clean Energy for All webinar in mid-February. So as I said, you'll be able to find all of these, almost all of these, on the chapter calendar, which I think Melissa was going to put in the chat if she hasn't already. And yeah, and we'll put links to all these things in the follow-up email as well. If you haven't already filled out the volunteer job fair interest form, which I think was in at least some of the, if you found this event through our email blast, thank you for filling that out. But if you haven't, Melissa's going to put that in the chat now, and we'll also have it in the follow-up email. And as I said, we'll be sending out an email to all the registered participants, everybody that registered, with the recording and a link to the slides, and have email addresses for all of our speakers. What else? What if you're still not sure what to do? Contact me or Melissa. We're kind of driving this volunteer job fair, and there are our email addresses on the screen. And
if you find yourself here tonight and you're like, I still don't know where I'm at. I still don't know how I fit in here, then maybe share something that you're passionate about. Like if you need to reach out to Melissa or Jim, something that you're passionate about. Maybe you're an artist or you're a writer or you're whatever it is, like what is this beautiful thing that you bring to this world, right? Or maybe there's a skill that you're trying to learn. I would just say, share that with us, because maybe there's something that we're missing, so just don't be scared. You can, we want you guys. We want to bring all these new energies in. So I just wanted to shout that out.
Thank you so much. It's true. And if you look at that volunteer interest form and you don't want to check any of the boxes, put your contact information in, fill in, I don't know, and we'll get back to you and we can have a conversation and figure out where you fit in. So thank you so much for highlighting that as we close out for the evening.
And so on behalf of all the volunteers and staff, thank you everybody for joining us, and we will be in touch. And if you don't hear from us or you miss the email, be sure to contact Melissa or myself.